Okay. All right. Shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rechak, Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And we are here once again with another Sabbath Sanctuary episode 29, as we are entering into the Sabbath at sundown. And this one is titled, What Do You See? Okay, and for the thumbnail, I put a picture of a world half destroyed, right, and half preserved. And the theme is basically along the lines of those that have the eyes to see versus those that have been blinded. And though we may all have physical eyes, and yeah, we can all see out of our eye sockets and whatnot, our retina and everything. You have some that see the world for what it really is, okay, who the Lord has opened up their eyes. And what I mean by that is it's not just seeing the destruction that's happening or what's about to happen, but understanding why it's happening, what it's going to lead to, and how we get delivered out of it. All of those things factor in and matter versus those that don't see it. Because till this day, based on their actions and their words, right, they're living carelessly as though the world is on, half of that globe that I showed where it's green and preserved and everything is all good. Meanwhile, evils are growing upon the face of the planet Earth, as the scriptures say. And so that's why you have precepts that highlight this when they mention the prudent man foreseeing the evil and hiding himself, right? If your perspective of the world or your outlook of the world is peace or it's going to get better or this is just normal, you have no urgency, right? You have no reason to be in a mindset of being prepared for what's about to hit because everything is normal. And the reason is because the minds of these people degrade with the world as it degrades. That's why the Lord says they are of the world. So they change along with the world. But the elect can see the world for what it is and say, no, we're not of this world. So we can see this world actually degrading and getting worse and worse and worse. And the impending judgment that's about to hit. So that leads to the title of What Do You See? Okay, you're either going to see the truth and the world for what it is and prepare, or you're going to be blinded in that bubble, distracted by bread and circuses until that destruction comes. So if Brad's got anything, go ahead.
Yeah, Khan, that's a beautiful segue, right? Because, like you said, basically those who see things for what they are, all right, which would be the elect, Lord willing, all right, we are of that number, all right. The Lord has given us certain indications. So seeing this place going down is not, oh, just that's the end of it. No, it's more of an indication of where we are in prophecy, right? Because we have multiple prophets that talked about the signs of the end, right, and the things that the elect should look out for. Okay, as is written in Second Ezra, the 9th chapter. As a matter of fact, let's pull that up real quick. Second Ezra chapter 9, and verse 1. It says here, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Right. So we're seeing these signs. We're seeing the economic turmoils globally, right, which is all bringing in the MOTB system. We're seeing the earthquakes in diverse places. We're seeing the uproars of the people, even though it's not mainstream news. We're seeing it. Social media is showing you, all right, people planning, basically, eventually getting ready to the point where they're going to snap. But we're seeing the boiling stages, people being laid off from work, right? The economy is bad, where grocery stores and grocery shopping is becoming a whole lot more expensive. Just living in general as a whole, right? Everything is becoming worse and worse and worse. Everything. So eventually, when people get pushed to a point, they're going to revolt. They're going to push back. There's going to be an uprising. And that's why prophecy says, let's continue, it says, therefore, verse 3, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, that's another sign, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So the elect are the ones who are seeing these things. They're watching these things, right? So like the title goes, what do you see? The elect see the end. They see all the signs that tells us or indicates to us that the end of this kingdom is at hand, and the salvation of the elect is also at hand. Okay, and ultimately, only the elect are going to have the vision to see these things and actually understand it for what it is. The rest are going to be blinded, where they're just going to look at it as just random events happening in the course of their daily lives. All right, but the elect, these are all things that's set in stone to happen, and as they unravel, we say, "Oh, check one off," and say, "Yep, we're that much closer to the end of this thing." Okay, this is a book of Romans, chapter 11 and verse 7. It says, "What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded." Okay, so when you go into that word obtained, wow, it's the Greek word here is I'm not going to attempt it. But it says here to chance, I mean to obtain or slash to attain something, right? Meaning to get something. Okay. And when you attain something, that means that you've been searching for, you've been looking for, you've been putting work towards it in order to achieve it. Okay. So Israel, all right, have obtained, I mean, the Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for. Okay. Ultimately, what is that which Israel is seeking for? Seeking for the promise. Okay, the promise that the Lord gave Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel has been seeking for that. And it starts with the truth, the understanding of the scriptures. Okay, and then eventually it manifests into the physical promises that the Lord has set in stone for the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the elect. Okay, but it says here, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. So the election, all right, hopefully we are part of that number. We see everything that's leading to the end of this place. So we are in a better case scenario to be better prepared, all right, so that we can actually obtain that salvation. Okay, because when you see something, you can see for what it is, as in good or bad. And if you're a sound-minded person, you're gonna go with a good decision. You're gonna go the good route, even if it's a difficult route. That's the good route to go on, right? But if you're blinded, okay, blinded by the ways of this world, blinded by the pleasures of this world, blinded by the fake promises of this world, which is going into the culture, the customs, the thought processes, the so-called dreams, yeah, American dream, all these different things, right? These are all things that will blind you from seeing the promises that the Lord has set in stone for the elect. Okay, so by being so worldly minded, you're not going to see the promises and the blessings that the Lord has in store. So to you, it's just another, oh, let me just say, who cares? Oh, it's just things happening. Y'all just keep talking. Okay. So the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Okay, verse 8, it says, according as it is written, the Most High hath given them the spirit of slumber, meaning a spirit for them to be what? To be sleeping, all right? To be asleep, as the Apostle Paul said. Okay, that those of the world who are asleep, but we are not children of the night, okay, but of the day. Okay, it says what? It says to be asleep. It says what? To be in confusion. Okay, to be in confusion. That's why they don't get everything that we're saying. Okay, it says what? It says the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear unto this day. All right, so no matter what happens, they're not going to see what the elect are going to see. Okay, they're not going to hear what the elect are going to hear. All right, that's why the Lord told Ezekiel, give them warning, whether they hear or whether they forbear. In other words, you're going to have those who are going to hear you and listen and take heed and be prepared, which are the elect, and you have those who are not going to take heed. As a matter of fact, they're going to have every reason, every excuse in the book to come against you. Okay, and that's how you tell the difference between who's getting it and who's not getting it, who can see and who can't see. All right, but you got it, bro.
Yeah, Khan. And I got a quick precept to back up that point because it's going to be very crucial. The difference here is that, you know, we all have different perspectives, right? But then there's always the truth. And of the two sides that are shown, right, of those that don't see what's going on, and they're likened onto those that are blind, because if you were with a blind man and you guys are both walking, and all of a sudden a portal opens up and the three-headed demon crawls out the ground, both of your reactions are going to be completely different, right? Because the blind man can't see what's really happening in front of him. So he's thinking, okay, I'm just hearing things, like what's going on. You, on the other hand, who can see, are like, oh, like your jaw's probably dropped. And so that is basically what's happening now, right? We're seeing the things happening around the world and we have a reaction, but the people in the world don't. which is why you talk to them and you're like, yo, Trump said he's doing this, right? You know that we're pretty much like borderline at war with Venezuela, or over there, and what's going on. You know what that means for this place, right? You know what's happening with the AI advancing. Like, look at what it's doing, and they're just like the blind man. Like, I'm just like, I can barely make out certain things that are going on, but like not really sure why you're making a big deal, right? The only difference is in process of time that somebody's perspective is going to be proven to be false. And what it's going to happen is it's going to merge with reality, but it's going to be very quick. Okay. So that perspective of the world being okay is going to shatter, right? Once the Lord actually brings that period of judgment. And you know what? That moment of realization is going to happen right when the doors of mercy close. That's when the Lord is like, all right, you can take the blinds off of them now. Because at this point, it doesn't matter if they can see it or not. They will not get a chance to repent. So that's even a sign that the longer these people are blinded, the longer like the doors of mercy are still open. And it's crazy how the Lord set it up that way. But the second that those doors of mercy close, and that's why the famine of the word in Amos 8 and 11 is written as such, that then they're going to be seeking, but they're not going to find it. Okay, because if they could find it, then they would get the understanding of the scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation. But the Lord does not want to save everybody. And they're going to find out the hard way very, very, very soon. So this is the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 1. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord cometh as a thief in the night. And we know what that's about, right? That means that the Lord's visitation is going to come unexpectedly. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. And what's happening in the world is kind of like feeling the winds of a storm that's coming, but the storm is so strong that the winds that you feel are days apart. So people will feel that strong wind and they're like, yo, and then the wind blows past them and then they're like, all right, it's been a couple of hours now. That was just a mighty wind. There's no storm coming. And that's what happens when you have events like what happened with Israel and Iran. They got really, really close to things really escalating. That was that wind, right? Like in Habakkuk, it mentions that it's going to tarry, but wait for it. So now they brokered a peace deal, whatnot, and Trump is doing this and clearing up the streets and all of these things. So they think, oh, these things that made me consider maybe the prophets were right. Oh, maybe these guys were telling that oh, maybe it's really that time. Oh, well, the wind just blew past me, so I'm okay. But what they haven't realized is those winds, the reason they were days apart is because that storm is literally that of a greater magnitude than anything you've ever seen. So much so that even the time intervals between its winds, are that far apart. And those that are of the elect that have the eyes to see, as the Apostle Paul mentioned, that he has no need to write onto you because you already know what time it is. We can see and we're like, we got to get so far away from here. Because if these are what the winds feel like, and this is how long it's taken, this place is not going to survive whatever is coming to this place. And the way we did that, we got so far up out of here, was by running into the name of the Lord, right? Proverbs 18 and 10, seeking the Lord and having that shelter prepared, like building that ark, saying, you know what? Not only am I going to build this, I'm going to fortify it, right? I'm going to come into to the word of the Lord. I'm going to listen and I'm going to learn and grow in it and build my relationship with the Lord. Because when that time comes, I need the Lord. I need to depend upon him. So continuing here in verse 4, it says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So there's going to be, and that part is like a skipped over or underestimated thing in the minds of people. The part about they shall not escape, because they've been conditioned so much into thinking that what happens in the movies and fairy tales is reality, right? People are conditioned to think that somebody's always going to be there to save you. Somebody's going to come out of somewhere, somehow. Something goes wrong. Somebody just happened to be there and they're like, hey, what are you doing? No, in reality, what happens is, even if you are lucky and somebody is there, they go, yo, what you doing? Boom, get shot in the head. Now what? Now you're even more afraid than before they got there, because now you're like, oh shit, this guy's not playing around. In reality, you get dragged to somebody's basement, you're not getting found. Okay. In reality, your stalker is not going to be like Joe Goldberg, who just happens to be somewhat humane, and he's just really fascinated by you. No, 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 no. In reality, your stalker is going to be an ugly, fat, stink, redneck looking dude that got you big, fat belly. You know what I'm saying? In the basement somewhere. That's the reality that's coming. We'd rather choose the bear over the man. Well, your reality is going to be the bear, and you're going to find out what bears do to BBLs.
Oh, hey, that's crazy work. Hey, you know what's crazy? Today actually, there was some information that came out, and you had, I believe it was a sheriff out in Ontario, and he basically telling people that, look, if you get, raided, somebody come into your crib, whatever the case may be, don't try to defend yourself. Don't pick up no arms or try to step in and try to be Mr. Hero. No, no, no. He said, look, your best defense is compliance. Just comply. Let them do what they got to do, and then once the deed is done, the deed is done. But if you can, at least you get to preserve your life, right? To avoid further, casualties. But if you can, just call 911. You know, oh, what's up, boy? Just call 911 and let them deal with it. You know, and I'm like, yo, something is about to go down very soon, bro. Because why are they telling the people, right? Oh, don't worry about defending yourself. If somebody raids into your home, just call 911. We are the ones who are equipped to deal with it, so don't have to worry about it. So in other words, don't defend yourself when the troops start coming into your houses. The best way to go about it is just to comply. And the first thing I thought about was Gray State is about to pop off soon. Okay, the trailer in Gray State, how they go into homes and then they grab people up. All those people that they were grabbing up, you saw how they were treating them. They got the bag over your head. You know what I'm saying? You got people screaming, they line people up and then pop, pop, pop in the back of their heads, right? They got there's this very short part of the clip where you have this guy who's wearing all white, like a KKK looking dude, and then at the side of it says FEMA camps, right? So they're gonna be dragging people up in there. So Project Cypher is about to take place in real life, okay, where they come in, storm in the middle of the night, grab you up, break your windows, your if you're in your car, they're breaking your car doors, your car windows, grabbing you up and taking you wherever they're going to take you. Okay, this is the reality, and they're telling you not to defend yourself, man. Okay, so what should I tell you? All right, this is the reality of the situation, and guess what? Most people sound like the damn sink. Shit. All right, most people are conditioned, like before you were saying, they're conditioned to depend on the system for any type of directions or like common sense things, right? If you driving right and there's a lane that's wide open but everybody's in the left lane, you're not going to see somebody just jump into the right lane and start driving until you do it. As soon as you do it, everybody going to start following you. You see, and Esau knows that, so they know how to create a situation and then use the media to guide people. It's called sheeple for a reason, okay? To guide them into whatever it is that they want to guide them into. So if you don't have the eyes to see what's actually going on and be like, wait a minute, you seen it far off, you're like, wait, the lane is open. Why is nobody driving through there? Right? And you don't be the first one to take that lead in there. You're gonna be stuck in that same lane, and you're just gonna be looking crazy. In other words, get out of the lane of the people in the world. Okay, that's what that means. The people in the world, they're gonna be in that lane, following that lane, going nowhere, and complain about, oh my God, why is there so much traffic? Nigga, there's an open lane. Why don't you take that lane? You see? But they're afraid to make that move because nobody else has done it. Why should I do it? Everybody's in this lane. Why am I gonna leave this lane and look crazy? Well, that's the lane that's gonna lead you to get to where you gotta go faster. It's open, but nobody's gonna take it. You see? But you got it, bro. I just want to add that in there.
Yeah, I just want to say, when you your recent point, Aaron, just like that time, remember before when you were driving and there was no one in the left lane, and so we got into the left lane and it was just like free until someone idiot almost crashed into you, and then we saw that message in the back of the car. I forgot what it said, but yeah. But earlier you mentioned the gates of mercy, and I just want to bring out Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 9, and it reads, "That thing have been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun." Now, the way people are behaving today, they're behaving like how it was in the time of Noah. Why? Because there's the same people coming back. There's nothing new under the sun, as the scripture just read. And you can imagine, like, back then in time of Noah, everyone ridiculed Noah because he was building the ark. They didn't believe what he believed in. Noah was just going off of pure faith, but he didn't care what the other people thought. And and like today, people are ridiculing us as well. So when the Lord had closed the gates to the ark, people didn't think much of it until they felt that first drop, and like, shit, what's that? Huh? Shit. And they started banging on the gates. Hey, let me in. But hey, it was too late. That's about it.
God, yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. People always think they're invincible until they get touched. And then that touch is like the touch of reality, where then they're like, oh shit, like yo, they get snapped back to reality, and it goes to show you that it has to be some form of a spiritual blinding, all right, or blocking over their minds, because it's almost it's delusional. That's what it is, right? As the scripture says, it's delusional. A lot of people today are very delusional, you know and when they end up in these situations, you sit back and look and wonder, well, what did you think would happen? I mean, 1 + 1 is equal to 2, right? So what did you think was going to happen by you doing that? You go and provoke a man who says, open your mouth again, I'm going to slap you. And he looks pretty serious about it. And then you think that you're going to open your mouth and nothing is going to happen. Then you get slapped. Well, once again, what did you think was going to happen at that point? Exactly. Wake up to reality. So I had a quick precept by Haran. You mentioned this. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 22. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Now, I also wanted to mention that there are the things that we say versus the things we experience. Sometimes the gap can be a very, very big gap. What I mean is, like, hearing or mentioning, about people suffering and all these calamities coming, it's one thing. And we talk about it all the time. It becomes like, once your brain hears something again and again and again, it doesn't really process it much. It just, yeah, I know what that is. I know what that is. I know what that is. But when it sees it, right, in real time, it's a different experience, because you are literally going to have people crying their eyeballs out, like weeping, grown men and women, completely broken down to the minutest atom. And the craziest part about it is there's going to be absolutely nothing that is going to be important or special about it. Today, people barely cry, in the sense that, more often than none, you're going to be outside and somebody's going to be laughing or even angry, right? Or just talking, versus everybody and everywhere you go, somebody's like in deep sorrow. Nowadays, you barely see that actually on the streets. So when somebody is like that, people are more inclined to go and say, like, yo, what's going on? Like, it's something, what's happening here? However, in that time, that's going to be the state of the world. Watch movies like I Am Legend, or what's that movie with the Book of Eli? Sorrow was the theme. Well, sorrow was the name of the game. Okay, laughing was rare. They show you that in The Walking Dead, to where the corniest joke becomes so funny because you haven't laughed in so long. And the reason you haven't laughed in so long is because you've never been comfortable enough to laugh, right? You've always been on the run. Something is happening here. You're losing a loved one here. And in those movies, they'll always stop and recount and be like, yo, I don't even remember the last time I smiled. I don't even remember the last time I let my guard down for a second. That sounds trivial because you're watching it, but in reality, it's a completely different feeling, and it's very tiresome. So when the Lord says, as I just read here, that many of them are going to perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy, you're going to have people get so hungry, they're actually going to think in their mind, I have to kill this person here. Like an innocent dude is going to be like, I gotta actually murder this guy and eat him, and after that, they're still going to die, because human flesh is not meant to be eaten. You're going to eat and eat and eat and eat, and eventually something is going to get you and you're still going to die, because what happens if you're both stranded, you eat that person, now what? Who else you going to eat? So it says here, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. I'm talking about people being put to death live. Like, you could see that just right in front of you. See somebody just boom, put to death right then and there. That traumatizing moment is going to mess up a lot of people's heads, because Somebody getting punched in the face in front of people, they already get messed up in the head. Oh shit, yo, dude got stabbed. Yo, oh, he's bleeding. Oh my god, yo, that shit crazy. And imagine dude just boom, he just got stabbed. Or he just got actually stabbed to death. And this guy just walks away like it's all good. Like shit like this is gonna become commonplace. This is what we're talking about when we say that it's gonna be a time like never before. People need to snap out of that fake pseudo mindset and realize that we're literally teetering upon the edge of that cliff. And once the Lord says, and the world falls, it's falling off of a cliff. It's not going back up. It's falling down into the underworld, so to speak. And that's going to be the new reality. So it says here, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. Imagine walking and seeing a dead body that's been there for like 2-3 days. It smells bad. There's house flies all over it and shit. And here's the main part. And there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. So as to where, like I'm saying, today it's either on the news or somebody's with you telling, it's so funny that even though people may know that it's not going to be okay, they'll still tell you it's going to be okay just to comfort you, right? No, it's fine. Things will somehow, some way work themselves out. Damn well this person, they got a terminal illness. How is things going to work themselves out, right? But in that time, there's going to be nobody left to comfort you because there's going to be so few people out there. You're going to actually be alone. Imagine that. You in the scariest time ever and you're alone. There are people that are afraid to be alone in their own houses by themselves with all the lights on. You're going to be out there in the woods dealing with the elements, dealing with people, and you're weak and you're tired and you're hungry and you're alone. And the nighttime comes and there's no power, there's no light, there's no warm, there's no food, there's no none of that. That comfort, they're going to realize at that point, damn, it doesn't matter what this guy looks like. He could be fat, he could be skinny, he could be chubby. If he's a man, I want to be there. The fact that I can hear somebody else's voice, I need to go over there. That's why the scriptures mention Isaiah 4:1 and men of the Lord being likened onto that fine gold. You brothers got it.
Shalom, you got something to add in? Yeah, you got it, bro.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, my bad, Salaki, for coming later. I had to help with something. But just to add on to what your brothers were saying, essentially, just listening to what your brothers are saying, like what Bakwar was saying, it's different when you're watching things right on the outside and seeing things, or like the brother was saying, you're hearing it over and over and over, and it becomes like second nature to hear it. But it's another thing when like you're in the midst of the experience or in the midst of it, right? It's the same thing. Like I'll just use football because I have a football background. If somebody's watching a sports game, it's easier to sit there and say, why didn't he just miss? Why didn't he just juke? Why didn't he just do that? Like, because you're on the outside, you have like a full spectrum of seeing it all play out. Whereas the person is just one lane. So they don't, like, let's say they juke or spin, they didn't see that other person from their blind side coming and hitting them. But you on the outside, you could see it. Another example I could use is like, let's say a movie or whatever, right? Let's say a movie with a great battle, like there's a war or something. And you sitting there, you just like, oh, okay, yeah, I see a dude slicing, doing all this type of stuff. But then imagine pick you up, and put you in the middle of that. Your whole energy and mindset is going to be completely different because now you're not sitting here watching it. You're in the middle of it now. And now you have to feel all the emotions and everything and hearing, before you're hearing surround sound, you're hearing the men scream, going to war. No, this time you're hearing it and it's in your ear now ringing. You like, hold on, wait a minute. You looking like that Mr. Crab emoji, like this. Now you're in the middle of it. You're hearing the ground shaking. You're hearing everything. And now you're a part, right? No longer you're just sitting there, but now you are a part of the movie. And I say that to bring out this precept. Because you got to remember, these visions that the prophets got, they actually saw these things. So this is 2 Ezra chapter 16 and verse 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? And they have an exclamation mark at the end of woe is me. So Ezra is seeing the destruction, seeing the last days. He was actually, imagine it like I just said, he's in the middle of it. Why do you think he would say, woe is me? Because he was like in the middle of it, seeing explosions, seeing death, seeing bodies drop. And it's like, hold on, I'm in the middle of this. And what's going to happen to me now? Verse 18, it says, the beginning of sorrow and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. And what shall I do when these evils shall come? So Ezra was put in the middle of that, in that vision, and it's like, yo, what am I going to do? Like the brothers were saying, when you watch things off of like the news, it kind of like desensitizes you, if that's the word, because you're seeing something like the Minnesota shooting. You can't really relate because you weren't there. But now if you're in the middle of that, your emotions are tied to it. Everything is tied. Oh my God, I almost died, man. I was shook. Your heart was racing, your heart was beating. Now it's like, damn, I didn't think I could make it. But if you're just watching on the news, it's like, oh damn, that's tragic, that's sad. All right, what's next? It's different than when you're actually in the middle of it. Like I gave the example, like, using a movie, or like if you're watching a football game. Oh, why didn't he just move? It's different. Like if you were there in the middle of it, you're gonna feel and see a different whole type of thing. But I just wanted to add that.
Hey, Khan, yep, that's perfect. I was actually, as you were speaking, Shalimar, a thought got sparked in my head that, like Ezra was saying, woe is me, who delivered me in those days. That's for all the prophets. That's for all of us. Every member of the elect who's still here waiting on Yahushua's deliverance, we're also in the same situation like the rest of the world. It's not like, we just gonna be floating up somewhere and then all hell's breaking loose and we just looking down and watching people just get fucked up. Nah. We're gonna be in the midst of it too. We're gonna be in that same home with family members that are complaining about the reality of how tough things have become. Like you're gonna be hearing it. You're gonna be in your house, your mom or your uncle or your aunt, whatever, they're gonna come in and be like, man, I went to the grocery store today. That's the reality setting in. Once it starts hitting your doorstep, then you're like, yo, shit, what the fuck? Like it's in your pockets. Then you start putting two and two together. And once the reality sets in like that, people are gonna start looking desperate. Then you're gonna start having the desperate thoughts. Like, yo, man, maybe I should start selling this off. Maybe I should start, reserving this. That's when people start thinking reality based, not no fantasy shit. You're not worried about TV because watching TV nowadays is not gonna change the reality anymore. Back then, people use these things as distractions, but now the distraction is becoming more of a problem than the problem itself. You know what I'm saying? But another example, real quick here, and this is again the reality of the situation is this is all come into play. Okay, people always forget about that part. They listen to what we say, but they don't really listen to what we say. Okay, it says here, global meat prices reach new record high. And new record high means people are going to be affected in a different way, right? It's going to be a lot more harsher than it was last month, than it was 2 months ago, than it was a year ago. You will see the difference, especially this year. You got holiday season. A lot of people are not going to be doing Halloween parties. A lot of people are not going to be getting together for Thanksgiving. A lot of people are not going to be getting together for Christmas. All right, because number one, the economy is tanked. Okay, the reality is finally set in. Number two, people are like, yo, I'm trying to preserve whatever little that I have. So this year, I'm not gonna go ball out, just because I want to go buy a whole bunch of kids for presents for kids. No, okay, your parents are gonna be telling their children this year, oh, not today, Billy, or not today, Tommy. The Edomite families, they're gonna be having those miserable, sad conversations with their kids. And the kids are gonna be mad, like, yo, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna start feeling the tension in the homes now. The father is stressed out more and more every day. He might have just gotten fired. The mother probably just got fired. Who's going to be taking care of the bills now? You live in a system where you need to rely on a two income based home in order for you to keep things afloat. So if one person is down, that puts everything, behind the eight ball. And then you have kids on top of that. And then you got to battle the elements that's coming with the fall season and then the winter time, right? Everything gets much more expensive during the winter time. You got to worry about heat. You got to worry about car gasoline. You got to worry about all these things, man. And these are not cheap. These are just increasing by the day. So just your basic living standards, whether it's food and shelter, these things are already blowing your pockets dry. And now you got to worry about the reality of how am I going to feed myself and my kids if you have kids. See? So now the prophecies are starting to make more sense. Like, oh shit, that's why the Lord said, woe unto you that give suck in those days. Because it's gonna be worse for you, right? What about pray that your flight not be in the winter? Now you think, oh shit, yeah, in the wintertime everything is that much more harder. Like, and it's gonna be tough to move around, and there's no vegetation. In the Asian world, you know, if it's the summertime, at least you could stop underneath a tree and pluck some fruits and eat and continue your journey. But in the wintertime, ain't no vegetation to sustain you. So whatever little you may have, you gotta hold on to that shit for as long as you can. And if you happen to be in a seed situation where you gotta run outside in the woods somewhere, may the Lord be with you. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, because you gotta balance just the elements alone. All right. So it says here, global meat prices reach new record high, and it's only going to keep skyrocketing. So the grocery stores is another indicator. The gas pumps is another indicator. Okay, your monthly bill is another indicator. This is the reality. Okay, and your wages are not going; they're not increasing to balance for the hyperinflation that's going on right now. This is the reality. Okay, it says global meat prices hit a fresh record in August as strong American and Chinese demand for beef continued to fuel a months long rally at a time when global cattle supplies have been dwindling. And we told you this exact thing was going to happen 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. When we saw all those food processing plants getting burned down, we said this might not happen within the next day or two, but over time, it's going to affect the food supply chain system. Okay. Not only is the supply itself being destroyed, but the regulations on how you can get that supply is also being changed. Everything is becoming digital. The farmers are being let go because they're saying, "Oh, you got to shut down your farms because you're growing organic crops. You're growing, grass-fed beef. We can't have that. You could spread diseases. We can't regulate that." So farmers are being shut down. Okay, Esau done created a system where they got all these industrial companies that are around these farms, right? Because you need that big landmass to be able to have these factories. So it happens that these factories are producing a lot of these chemicals. Number one is destroying the atmosphere, so it's affecting the animals that are around and the people around. It's also affecting the water supply. So you have all these chemicals being rained into the water supply. The same water that the farmers are using to grow their crops and to water their animals is being affected. You got 2, 3 years down the line, most animals are coming up with all these crazy diseases. People have cancer, all kinds of different diseases, right? The food supply is destroyed because you got what they call forever chemicals now, right? All these different things is adding up, bro, right? So you got all these things happening. The FDA come in, EPA come in, they say, hey, there's some chemicals going on. We're going to test your animals to see if they're safe. You as a farmer, you don't know that's what's going on. You just know your cows and your cattle is dying, and some of them are coming up with all kinds of crazy defects, but you don't know the cause of it. It's not you, right? You don't know about it. You don't know it's the chemtrails that's being sprayed in the. You don't know. But the next thing you know, a judge come in, boom, hey, you got to shut down your farm because the toxins levels are too crazy. Toxins level from where? Can we do an investigation to find out where it came from? Nah, we're not doing that, right? We can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So farmers are being they're being cut out of the equation. So now you're forced to deal with these corporations, and that's when these corporations make their rules to say if you don't have no digital ID to prove who you are, you can't be fed, and that's what this is all leading to. Okay, it says here a United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization index tracking the price of meat last month surpassed the record set in July. The surge is already worsening inflation headaches in some countries. Remember how Shai said? These are the beginning of sorrows. Okay? It says, in July, consumer prices for beef and veal were almost 25% higher in the UK. 25% is a lot. Okay? That's a whole lot. So if it's for every $100, that's another $25 added to it. That's a lot, bro. Okay? It says here, cattle farmers in many parts of the world are dealing with climate change and disease curbing production. See? Who's coming up? Who's creating all this shit? Who's fabricating all this shit, man? Who's constructing all this madness and pollution? If you believe in primary reaction solution, then we know exactly who's behind all this. Okay? It says the American herd is the lowest in decades, and numbers are also tightening in top shipper Brazil, with increasingly volatile weather adding to the challenges to rebuild. And guess what? Brazil, I believe Trump put if it's not a 50% tariff on them, it's some crazy ass number over there. So they're also having issues. And then you got the tariffs on top of that, which are going to be transferred onto the customer or the consumer. So it's a lose-lose situation. People are being laid off. truckers. Level one, I'm gonna do a lesson on that. The truckers ain't got no job. Why? Because the companies ain't got nothing, no products to be shipped around, right? People are not buying as much as they did. So companies don't have products to ship. People don't have, so basically there's no demand and supply. If there's no demand and there's no supply, there's no need for truckers. And if there's no need for truckers, you got thousands, if not millions, of jobs lost right there. Okay, how does it affect the whole chain, the whole entire economy? So when you put it all together, now you're starting to see a bigger picture. This is what the elections see that the rest can't see. Okay, it says here, for beef, strong demand from the U.S. boosted Australian prices, according to the FAO's report on Friday. Meanwhile, good Chinese imports from Brazil have helped support that market despite lower sales to America after higher level levies kicked in. Those are the tariffs, right? It says the higher cost of dairy products is also weighing on supply as fewer cattle are available for slaughter. Okay, so your prices are gonna go astronomically high. Trust me, it's gonna get crazy. We've seen it already, and we're in New York. Okay, New York has places that you have farmland. You have farmers that actually have cattle. When you go upstate, you have that. So it can actually sustain the state itself. But it's not going to happen like that because the whole chain doesn't just include it doesn't just include New York. You got different states that are all interconnected. And if one state is down, it affects everybody else, man. Okay, so expect some shit, man. Expect some gas prices going crazy. All right. And I was telling my E the other day, I was like, yo, after Labor Day, I could see things pick up faster. All right. After Labor Day, you're going to start seeing a lot of things pick up. All right. And through the spirit this year, you're going to see it a lot more because Labor Day, the labor of a woman in travail, right? So it's all kind of tied all in there. All right. But you got it, bro.
Yeah, Khan. Shalom, to the brothers that joined, Aishiyar and Ayash. Ayash, I know you're driving, so if you have a point, just like raise your hand and I can unmute you for you so you don't have to reach for it. But yeah, if you or Aishiyar got anything, get some points in, get some words in.
Khan. Yeah, the brother was mentioning Shalom Akim first and foremost. Yabashim Shabakathum. The brother was mentioning the AI farms, and that's big right now. They have technology where they can laser, like fire lasers at weeds and different things within the farm, and basically that means what? Everything that we've been talking about means that the American worker is going to be less and less in demand, and the MAGA people are being confounded right now because the whole thing about Trump was, oh well, he's going to bring back production to the U.S. and make it so that people will be able to get more jobs and get more money and sustain themselves economically more. But what's being found out is, he's an ally to the techno oligarchs, okay, like Elon Musk, like Peter Thiel. Am I thinking of the right guy, Peter Thiel, or is it somebody else? Thiel, the guy from
Palantir?
Yeah,
Peter Thiel. Yep.
Peter Thiel. Yep. So yeah, and that dude is going to be doing a conference on the Antichrist, right? Which is super interesting. And matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up. And we know that there's many antichrists; it's not just one. But it's funny because I just looked up on AI on Google, Peter Thiel Antichrist, and there's allegations that he is the Antichrist. We're part of it, But matter of fact, if a brother can pull up that precept about Antichrist in First John, we can get that. But this is what I really wanted to get into from Fortune.com. I could pull this up, see if I can share the window, share screen. There we go. Yep. Yeah, so this is pretty interesting considering everything brother's been speaking about. All right, Peter Thiel is delivering 4 private sold-out lectures at a club in San Francisco about the Antichrist, which Christ is Messiah, all right, anti-Messiah. Okay, and this dude is actually a Mo, okay, he's a sodomite, and he's obviously a demon. You know, he has nothing to do with the Most High God, other than being on the receiving end of his judgment. All right, but people will flock, as they said, it's all sold out. All right, because as the scriptures say, the wisdom of the poor man is despised, but this man speaks because he has money and influence, and everybody will flock to it. All right, and this just came out September 2nd, 2025. Now that the summer's over, the party's over, Labor Day's over, everybody got all that bullshit out of their system. Welcome back to real life, because summertime comes in Babylon the Great America and people go on a mental vacation. They forget about real life for a little while and they drown themselves in a lot of bullshit. All right. Whether it be, party, riotous behavior, all of the things that the scriptures talks about what happened in Rome it happens here. Okay. But now that that's over with, we're in the time of, more of these things coming out and leading into 2026. We know they have major points that they want to, they have factors on their agenda that they want to accomplish, right? So it says PayPal and Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel is embarking on an unusual intellectual journey this fall, delivering a sold-out 4-part lecture series on the biblical figure of the anti-Messiah. Now, Antichrist. Now, why is he doing that? This dude has never brought out a scripture. He's clearly an Edomite, a devil. Now why is he doing that? We're going to see what the angle is, but it's pretty obvious that they're trying to control the narrative on what is the anti-Messiah, right? Well, if he does a lecture on the anti-Messiah, then he can't be the anti-Messiah or a part of it, right? That's the kind of reasoning that they're going to go to. So I had the brother had for First John, get into it.
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah. This is First John chapter 2, verse 18. Little children, it is the last time. And as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time.
There it is. And that ties in, what do you see? We're seeing things that's indicative of prophecy, man. And if that was written of 2,000 years ago, approximately, that we know that it's the last time, all right, the end times, because of what we're seeing and the wickedness in the earth, how much more now? There's many anti-Messiah, okay, because Christians and people in general have this ideal about there's going to be one man that rises up. And that's just folly. There's many different individuals that are under the banner of Antichrist. Okay, but just reading on with this a little bit more, and if any brother wants to jump in, feel free, of course. It says he's embarking on this journey about the biblical figure of the Antichrist, right? The private lectures will be held at the Commonwealth Club in San Francisco, which San Francisco is like Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? And that's also the tech hub out there on the West Coast. You got Silicon Valley and whatnot. And a lot of them are moles, all right? A lot of them are, technocrats, all right? A lot of them are into that technological world, okay? So San Francisco is a very wicked place, okay? Represent the latest evolution in Thiel's increasingly public theological interests that intertwine his Christian faith. Now, somehow, this dude, which he had that quote saying that he doesn't know that if it's a good thing or not, if humanity should continue on. Right, but this is the guy who's allowed, and Christians will embrace him. Oh, he's a Christian brother, just like me. You don't have no discernment. That's the problem. Christian with Christianity, there is no gatekeeping, or there's no sense of there's filtering out people, and not everybody can be a part of it. Like with the truth that we're a part of, which is the real truth of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, there's a vetting process. We're not allowed to just come into this thing. The Lord tries us, and there's different things we're tried by the heads over us, and our spirit is tried, right? To see whether we can be entrusted with the words of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. But this guy is allowed to come in and say he's a Christian and nobody bats an eye. Okay. Meanwhile, he's setting up and involved in the MOTB system and raising up the beast system. Okay. And deceiving many. But that's why Matthew 24 says that there's going to be false prophets false anointeds, all right, that are going to deceive many. Okay, it says with his concerns about technology's potential to enable authoritarian control. You see, so they're putting it right in your face. Okay, and now it's going to be interesting to see what he says, and I'm sure a lot of us, when that time comes, if that's made public, what he's saying, which I'm pretty sure they're going to record it. If not, either way, there's going to be more exposure. But if so, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of information that's going to come out for us to do more videos and expose it. Okay, because the more they're going hard on the left hand, the harder the right hand is going to come down on them to expose them. And that's why with them coming out with individuals like this to lull people to sleep and get them more, comfortable with the idea of involving themselves with technology and putting technology in their body, okay, they're going to have to take us off the internet because we're the only ones that are exposing what they're doing and tying it in with biblical prophecy and the technology that they're using to do it. Their technology is a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Okay. But reading on a little more, unless a brother got a point or a precept.
I'm good. I asked you guys that. All right.
Yeah, I'm just going to read a little bit more. It says the series organized by the nonprofit Act 17 Collective will explore the theological and technological dimensions of the Antichrist in 4 sessions across September and October, which we know September and October is also a time of enchantments and a lot of witchcraft leading into the end of the year. When the sun comes out less, that was when the pagans will have a lot of their rituals. Okay. And then we know about Samhain and different things tied in with Halloween, the solstices, the fall solstice is coming up. So they do a lot of heavy witchcraft. And there's a reason why the fiscal year begins in September, really. So already they're in the next year already. Okay. The way that they set up their agendas. You don't just wait till January 1st and then start rolling out. They're already setting it up for next year. Okay. But it says the lecture remains off the record. Oh, you see, look at that. You see, they're going to be real secretive about it. Okay. The lectures remain off the record with no transcripts or recordings made public, but they draw upon the works of Rene Girard, the French philosopher who profoundly influenced Thiel during his Stanford undergraduate years, along with thinkers like Francis Bacon. Yeah, see, the nigga got bacon in his name. He's unclean. He's a damn demon. But it says, and Carl Schmitt. Okay, so basically they're going to be trying to, mind fuck the people about, doing the Jedi mind trick to try to get them to believe that they're not really exerting authoritarian control. They're actually Christians and they're the anti-Messiah, trying to explain it and do a Uno reverse. But we know it's all going to be exposed and their plan is not going to succeed. Okay, ultimately, they're going to fail. All right, but that was pretty much it on this, unless brothers wanted to, brothers could get into more of this on their own time, but just to show you what they're getting ready to roll out in the coming months.
Hey, Khan, and I believe this past week you had a meeting in the so-called White House where you had all these tech giants sitting at a round table with DJ Trump, and they were all thanking him. I'm talking about what's his name, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, Gil Bates. All right, what's the other guy? Shit, I'm forgetting this guy's name. What's that?
Larry.
Oh, he's not gonna be there. No, he wasn't. He wasn't part of that.
Poor
He's
Larry.
big. But they were all thanking him. Tim Cook from Apple, right? They were all thanking him. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you. I'm like, what is this all thank you about? All these people lined up at the other table. None of us want them to be in anywhere close to the government at all. Okay? They have vested interest in complete control of humanity. Okay? Controlling resources, controlling people, controlling everything. Okay? And when you read in the book of Revelation, going into making an image, all right, to the beast, right, bringing it to life and so on and so forth, they're using AI technology to literally fulfill that prophecy. Okay, so it's going to be very soon. You're going to see that, there's literally no way out of living in this system without a skip in you. That's literally what it's going to. They're slowly but surely changing all your options. Every option that you may have to escape that is being taken away little by little. Okay, whether it's through them creating some type of false flag and then hit you with some type of, well, this is why we have to come up with this Gideon technology, pre-crime. We can tell you before you actually can do something on some minority report shit. It's like, ain't nobody asked for that, right? Nobody asked for that. So they're coming up with all these different things. And then you got Gil Bates talking about, the medical field, we need to step up our technology in the medical field and so on and so forth. And Trump is the perfect guy to aid in that. The Meta guy, Zuckerberg, him, OpenAI, all these different people, and they're tying in. If you notice, a lot of these companies, these tech companies, they're all focused on not just biometrics, but tying in your actual ID to your banking information. All of them are doing that. And as a matter of fact, this morning, I went to the bank, and when I got there, typically they'll ask you for your bank card. You could insert your card and all that extra stuff. This is the first time I've been to a bank where they didn't ask for my bank card. They asked for my ID. That was the first thing they asked for. That's the only thing they asked for. And I'm like, is she going to ask for my bank card eventually so they can know who I am? But nah, my banking information is tied to my ID. So by her just taking my driver's license alone, she pulled up my information about everything that I'm doing in my banking history. And I was like, you don't need my card. You're not going, like, how you going to tie in my driver's license with my bank? Like, that don't make no sense, but they've already done it. It's already in the system. Okay. So just think about gradually how we're leading into this MOTB system. Okay. And you still got people who don't see it, but in order for the MOTB system to work, they have to strip away every single layer, every single avenue of escape. That's why it's known as a beast system. It's a surveillance grid system that watches everything you do, listens to everything you say, and it uses it against you, whether you like it or not. This is the system we're living in right now. Okay, but you wait till they start executing people based on your thoughts, your questioning, right? Your faith. Okay, if Trump is saying that they're going to start banning TGs from getting guns, that's where it starts. They're coming for your guns, you American people. They're coming for your guns, and that's your form of what? Defense. Once your president starts telling you we're coming for your guns, there you go. All right, there you go. I'm gonna get a quick precept here. I think we read this earlier, but I'm gonna just bring it out again through the Spirit. All right, because it's an effort. It's an overhaul, basically changing of a system, but it's an effort of not just one person but multiple people. Okay, this is the book of 1 John chapter 2 verse 18. It says, "Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come. Even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time." That's why they're all coming out of the woodwork and working together to achieve one goal and one goal only. Their New World Order is not centered on biblical beliefs or biblical truths or what the Heavenly Father has ordained for the Israelites and the rest of the world. That's not what the New World Order is based on. So just that very fact alone, the New World Order is based on an antichrist system, an anti-Messiah system. Okay, so when it says there are many antichrists, you got to look at the people who are bringing this system together. Okay, Peter Thiel will be considered antichrist. Gil Bates will be considered antichrist. Donald J. Trump will be considered antichrist. These are all people that are considered antichrist. There are many antichrists. Okay, it says here. Let me get this one last precept here. The book of Psalms. All right, because countless times King David warned, all right, about the devising of the wicked, the devices of the wicked. Okay, there's a book of Psalm chapter 83, start off at verse 1. It says, "Keep not thou silence, O power, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head." And that's why you hear people like Noah Harari come up and say, "We can make the Most High as angry as we like. We don't care." That's wars of, forget about hate. It's you're declaring war against the Holy One. When you say some shit like that, like you're literally rebelling. We could make him as angry as we like and we don't care. Oh, fuck. That's crazy. That is like the ultimate form of rebellion. Like, I can push you and test you. You're the more I can push you, I'll test you to see how far I can really go. Oh, we don't care. Right? Was that in Psalms 10? That the Most High is not at all in his thoughts. Okay? It says here, It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. Right? The crafty counsel is all going into these simulations, these round table meetings that they be having. Okay, Event 201, all right, Agenda 2030, Agenda 21, all these different things, the Sustainable Development Goals, right? The World Economic Forum, Agenda 2050, all this stupid shit. Okay, it's all to do what? It's all to come against the people of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Okay, it says here, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Okay, and just like every other empire that had this thought process, the tables always turned. Look at what happened with Egypt. The Lord turned the tables on them because they said, "Oh, tell the midwives we gotta kill all the Hebrew boys and keep the girls," and boom, out of there. The Lord destroyed the whole entire system. Look at what happened with Haman. He was conspiring against the Hebrews. What happened? The Lord turned the tables on his ass. Look at Antiochus. Look at Ptolemy. Look at all these so-called kings. Look at Herod. Okay, Herod, he wanted to go and kill Yahushua as a baby. All right, look at this is the mindset of these people, man, and it hasn't changed. Okay, it hasn't changed, and this time the Lord says it's a time like never before. So compile all these different history that you've seen and heard, and put it on a whole nother level, and think of it as okay. So what happened is something that's not going to compare to what's about to happen. A time like never before. Shit. All right, so it's going to be really bad. And when you read about what happened back then, people were being put to death by the millions. A lot of people were being put to death, man. All right. So imagine what's going to be happening now. When you got 9 billion people on this earth. All right. It says here, for they have consulted together with one consent, the New World Order, one world order. All right. It says they are confederate against thee. Okay. Meaning they form alliances. All right. They form alliances. This guy is working with this company and that guy's working with that company and that guy's working with that company. But guess what? When you trace it all back, they go back to one people. All right. It starts from the Rothschilds on down. Okay. Alex Karp. He's a J. If you trace his line, it's going to go back to the Rothschilds. All right. Peter Thiel and all these niggas, man. If you trace their line, they all go back to these elites, man. Okay. So it says here, the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab, the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot, Selah, right? So when you put it in modern day terms, every part of the system with different nations, they're all coming together for one cause and one cause only. It's to form a so-called New World Order that X's out anything that has to do with the righteousness of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Okay? So that's where we're heading against. That's what we're facing. This is bigger than, oh, just calling yourself a Hebrew Israelite. It goes deeper than that. But those who can't see, to them, it's just like, oh, y'all just wasting your time. No, nigga. We are literally the defense between you getting destroyed, all right, and the Lord just holding things back a little bit. That's it. Okay, because as it tells you in Revelation, the 7th chapter, the elect is the only reason why the destruction hasn't come yet. Okay, that's the only reason. But you wait until the Lord says it's go time. Then you're going to see some shit. All right, but y'all got it, bro.
Yeah, I just had a quick precept to land back off what you mentioned about the pride to say that we can anger the Most High as much as we want. Well, that was how Pharaoh was thinking. You know, that was how Pharaoh was thinking. And the Most High put that in his mind. Like, what the fuck is this guy thinking? Like, he actually had the nerve to say that. At the same time, the Most High is making him say that to destroy him even worse. And I got this real quick here. I'm going to give it to Ayash. Romans 9:17, for the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for the same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might shew my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and whom he will he hardeneth. Right? So if he wants to harden your heart and make you a prideful demon, and that's one thing that, again, going back to these Christians, they can't wrap their mind around. The Most High made Pharaoh his heart hardened. Who made him like that? Oh, he had free will. He did it. No, the Most High made his heart like that. The Most High made his mind like that. He was created and raised up for this purpose. The Most High, see, they want to put the Most High in a box. They don't want to allow, they don't want to consider how powerful the Most High truly is. to control every side of every conflict, both sides. The elites controlled by him. His prophets controlled by him. The useless eaters controlled by him. The birds, the trees, the mountains, the waves, everything is controlled by him. The weather patterns, the galaxies, the whole universe, man, in the palm of his hand. And that's what you can't wrap your mind around. But you're going to find out that this is the true and living God, and there's a reason why he's called the possessor of heaven and earth. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. You got it, Ayash.
I got you, bro. 1 second. All right, you good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Haran made a good point about how these nations, whenever they're at the height of the empire and they feel a little bit threatened, they start going out and they start lashing out. And but he brought my mind up on a video that I was watching, sort of like a documentary about how these tech giants out here, when they create these data centers, whatever territory that they're in, the people who inhabit those places are the ones who end up paying for the electric bill, right? Because they negotiate with these power companies, and they tell them, "Look, man, we're about to use this much energy, this, that, and the third." And then they say, "All right, cool. We gonna do this, that, and the third," and people don't know there's a closed doors meeting. So all this while these data centers have been there and have been growing, it's actually been the people, the common man, that have been paying for these tech giants to create more and to grow the empire. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize. Whenever we tell them that this place is not a utopia, it's a dystopian, country or even the world actually, and that they must recognize that they are slaves and they are being made fools of, and that they must what they must seek for a better life. Majority that message is for ultimately that message is for the nation of Israel and ultimately the elect. But people don't realize these things, right? And even if you go out, you see these cameras about or these scanners and cameras out in the highways, those are not, they don't belong to the federal government. They belong to private contractors, people who actually know how AI works and these companies, and they make these things and they lease it to what to the United States government. And so now you got to think about it. If this is private, these are private firms. I mean, private companies out here. How is it that they can scan and let them know who I am and what I am and where do I go and all these things? And that's because these apps that you're using. These, when you go on these things and it's free to use Instagram, you don't got to pay for all these things. They know who you are. So they feed all these messages into the algorithm, and then the algorithm can detect you wherever you are. And that's how these immigrants are getting captured, right? They think that all they got to do is make sure they don't go by cops. But have they ever sat down and wondered how they know where you work, like, how are they catching your ass in the middle of the highway and all these things? It's because they're tracking you, right? It's already bad enough that they have all these guardrails around us, but the time is coming where, knowing that they are in the last days because of the men of the Lord, like Haran said, they're gonna go much more worse. They're gonna go beyond the level of Pharaoh killing children just so he can secure his empire. And this thing that this fear upon them, that's gonna motivate them to start killing and imprisoning and doing all these things, these persecution, that feeling, they think that it's an initiative to break free from the will of the How Shemeshah, just like Ashia was saying. But ultimately, it's the Lord that controls the narrative, And what people gotta understand is that, like Haran was saying, we are the only reason, right? When the Lord looks upon this place, the scripture says that the Lord's eyes hate to behold iniquity. So you got to understand that the Lord hates iniquity, right? The Lord wants to get rid of iniquity, right? But if we're only here, there must be some sort of righteousness that is kind of pleasing him to where he's hold his hands back, right? And that's why people got to appreciate the men of the Lord, or at least appreciate the righteousness that comes from Yahweh Shem Yashai and the wisdom and knowledge that comes to humanity through the men of the Lord, right? But instead of taking this thing which is good, they're gonna be fools, right? And put their hands on the men of the Lord and then add what? Iniquity onto the iniquity, and the Lord is gonna judge them even worse. But the things that we're talking about, it's actually real. And I keep, whenever like I go on the internet, I'm looking for articles to do videos on, I can't help but think that right now, like, it's not even like we're prophesying anymore. Even Zaquan even said it. It's sort of like we're just showing it to you. It's just show and tell. Yo, this. You remember when we said last? Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. You know, how can it be possible? Listen, don't ask me that question. It's right there. It's possible. It's right there in your face. All they got to do is what is add 10 more people to this, and it's gonna be done. You know. So, you know, so at this point, if you don't get it, the Most High want to kill your ass. You know, if you don't get this truth, the Most High he knows who you are, he knows your name, and he's telling the angels, don't put his name in the book of life. And that's a scary thing to be in right now. See, these people out here thinking that when they're not down with this truth, that they're good because they ain't down with people who are bums. But you gotta understand that this is the most important job that a man could ever have. This is because he's embarking on a journey that'll save his life and give him immortality. So if you're not part of that fold, you are the sheep that is made for slaughter, right? You ain't part of the sheep of Yahweh Shem Yahshai. You're part of the sheep of the world that is made for slaughter, you know? And again, like Haran's point, beautiful point. Once we, the priests, are done preparing this place, what do you think the Most High is going to do? He's going to send out fire like he did with Elijah and burn up the sacrifice. Because this place, the scripture says, it's like an altar, it's a sacrifice that is being prepared. And he is bid. We are the guests that are being bid. And right now, the things are being prepared and all these things. But once we stay clear from it, this place is fucking done. Right? Once we're done with our work, even before the thermonuclear missiles hit, Jacob's trouble is going to be horrible. And the scripture says it's going to continue through all the way on up onto the point, up onto the end. So this is not the time for people to be to be effing around, even if you're in the truth, you know, because this thing that we've been talking about, it's not a speculation, it's not even a theory anymore. You know, it's literally just presentations that we're doing to you. And that's it. You know, that's as best as we can do. And right now, you better pray that Yahweh Shem Shai activates that common sense in your head for you to receive this word and put two and two together and start acting right. You know, because the stories that we've seen going on in the scriptures in prior times are the same thing that's happening. But right now, it's dialed up to 11. You know, Noah's in Noah's time, it was flood. Right now, it's going to be fire, and your ass going to be in it. You know, in Moses' time, it was just the babies and it was Jake. This time it's gonna be mad heathens getting put to death, and it's not just gonna be a couple 100,000 people, man. It's gonna come out the script. That's why the scripture says, "Woe to the inhabitants of the world." You know, so serious times we're living in. You know, but that's it for me.
Hey, it only
Oh, Slacky, no, go ahead, I'm now. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that it only connects for the elect.
That's it. That's it. That's it. I got one last point, and that'll be it for me. And then William can start wrap up. But based on what you were just saying, Ayash, it's no coincidence, right, that the time in which these elites are really pushing for the most brazen parts of their plan, which is openly in front of everybody, is a time when people are the dumbest, right? They condition that, so it's like two lines that converge at that point, right? Because by setting people on a course to deteriorating their mind and weakening their mental faculties, whether by physical, things that they're giving them, and also feeding them poison to their minds, they got people to the point where they don't care and they don't know enough to care, when they can openly come out and say, yeah, like, we're summoning a demon, or yeah, we're about to put things in you and control you. You're just going to let us. Because if this was like 50 years ago, that'd be a different story. If you notice, the kind of riots and stuff they had all those years ago, they don't have that same ones here. Like, if you look at some of the revolutions and riots that happened in the past and why they happened, and then you look at the kind of riots that happen today and why they happen, there's a disconnect, right? Like, in the past, people uprise for a reason, for a cause, which was like against oppression. Here, it's slightly different. It's like pointless. It's just out of nowhere. Boom. Oh, there's a riot going on over here. Oh, there's a riot going over here. Right? Exactly. Yeah. Meat puppet parade. And that's exactly what they are. So what I wanted to say on that, because as they are getting ready to, as the Lord is getting ready to bring mass slaughter using the slayer, which is Esau Edom, I just saw this post here, the other Yashwama posted it, where you got this is the mindset Jake is in. It says, woman celebrates after giving birth and handing baby over for $75K, calls it her biggest payday ever. Quote, or I guess this is what she said: when you give birth to a baby boy, but you bring home over 75K instead of him. So this is basically the mentality, and this is what Jake is busy doing at this point, this very point in time, right? So you can see very clearly, yeah, it doesn't shock me that they were sacrificing their children onto Moloch, right? It doesn't shock me that they would put their baby on a burning the hands of a burning statue and hear it scream and all those things. Jake will do that, right? And they're doing that today, and these are the things they're worried about. Soldier Boy's Down Low affairs and Ray J's Moaz and all those Kai Sinet and all that. That's where their focus is on. Meanwhile, you got real things happening. So it's my last precept. This is 2 Ezra 15 and 8 and 5. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled, right? Because the Lord always has a measure for everything. Empires, people, there's always a measure. And once you fill it up, that's it's go time. Therefore, saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. That's a blatant example. This isn't even something you say. This is something that you try to hide. Should that even happen? And this is something that shouldn't be happening in the first place, but that's what they're doing, right? So that's why it says, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and that's what we're doing, okay? And the souls of the just complain continually. See, and that's what we're doing. We're constantly complaining so the Lord can fix this place through the judgment that he's bringing. So yeah, that's all I had. Russ got any, last few points and bring it out before we okay, good. All right, beautiful. So this has been Sabbath Sanctuary episode 29. What do you see? Hopefully your eyes have been open and you see what you should see, but if not, you better open them eyes before you're cooked. Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.
Shabbat shalom to the elect. Yahweh Shalom.